All right, sorry, I had my volume down. Marsha, you there? Chris, you there?
I'm here.
Perfect. And if you go to Representative Kara Berkman on Facebook, you can share this live from there as well. It's happening live on there.
So do we leave this and go there?
So if you want to pull that up on your Facebook, if you want to pull that up on your Facebook page as well, while this is going, you can share it so that your constituents can hop on and watch it live without being
live because I can't get it to come up on my phone for some reason.
which part?
Well, the Zoom meeting, it says you have another meeting in progress. It could be because it's legislative as opposed to, I don't know why it wouldn't let me.
Weird.
I'm on my phone, so
Trying again.
Okay, we're just waiting for Melissa and Candace and Carrie Ann.
Candace had to do a
There you are, Marcia.
Yay, let me do it. Thank you. So I'm signing off of here.
Okay.
My phone.
Where's Carrie Ann and Melissa? Well, we can just go ahead and get started with the women that are on here. Does one of you want to get going first? I think we should just take a couple minutes, talk about, a couple of our bills that we're working on. And then once we've all shared a couple bills, we can go over some of the legislation that's coming before us that we're supporting or has just gone before us that we're supporting. Let's see, Marcia, you're talking, but you're muted.
Oh, I'll go
There you
first if you want. Sorry, I didn't hear anybody else jumping in. So, because then I can go and then I can start driving and not have to worry about it. So, some of the bills, or one of the bills, they've mostly all come through the House. So that's nice. I have two bills that I've already, or one bill that already has made it all the way through. The two bills have made it all the way through the process, which is nice. But some of the bills that I'm really most excited about, the first one is the juvenile interrogation amendments, which would extend. So this is going to be on your Facebook. So I'll say the whole thing, even though you guys might be bored. Hopefully anybody watching on Facebook won't be bored.
This is what it's for. Yes.
All right. So currently in Utah statute, 13, if a child is 13 years old or younger, they cannot be interrogated by police without a parent being present. However, any child that's 14 up to 18, any minor that's over 14 years old, can not only be interrogated by law enforcement without a parent present, but they can also waive their Miranda rights. And which brain science shows that kids are not, their frontal lobes have not developed. They don't have that executive functioning. They go off their limbic system, which is more based in emotion, and up to 90% of youth do waive their Miranda rights, and about a third of false confessions are from minors. And so these kinds of things, I mean, they have lifelong effects on these kids. And so this bill has been negotiated with prosecutors and defense attorneys and the police, the sheriffs, all the branches of law enforcement, and the Attorney General's office. And we've had so much input, and it's been a really great process. And I think we are where I think we're in a good place. And it was kind of nice today when I testified in front of the Senate committee, where it passed out unanimously. I was glad. Beforehand, one of the sheriffs was talking to me, and he said, we still have this problem with exigent circumstances. We think that there needs to be an exception if there's exigent circumstances, and he gave the example of if there's a school shooting, they want to be able to talk to, if they catch one of the shooters and they're a minor, they want to be able to talk to that minor right away. And I said, well, this doesn't preclude you from doing that. You can still talk to that minor and find out how many other people are in the building, or how many shooters, or anything like that. But then it would be up to the court to determine if that was an interrogation. And also, another big issue is that if this child was an adult, we don't have carve outs for Miranda rights for adults with exigent circumstances. They can always waive their right to talk. But these kids, we put so much pressure on them and they don't. And so I just don't see that we need to carve out exigent circumstances for our kids. And anyway, he didn't get up and testify against the bill at all. So that was really nice. I think that that law enforcement has seen, and for their own kids, they know for their own kids, you know, that they want these protections, and they've been great to work with. All the groups have been great to work with. So that is a bill that I'm pretty excited about, and I can be really brief on the next one. It's kind of gotten more press because there's been a lot of news about renters and landlords, and this one just passed through the House today, and it just requires landlords to disclose to potential renters all the expenses and fees that the renter will be required to pay in their monthly rent before the renter pays an application fee or any deposits. And if those fees aren't disclosed when the renter goes to sign the lease, and this happens more often than you would think, and some of these fees could be up to 20% more added to their rent. If they can look at that and say, I can't afford the new rent. I didn't expect to pay that much. And then this gives a process for that renter to get the fees and deposit anything that they've paid the landlord back. So anyway, those are two bills that I'm happy about.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcia. I think they're both great bills. So who would like to go next? Cheryl. Oh, Cheryl, there we go. I think you're raising your hand. I'm unmuting you right now.
There we go. I didn't realize I was muted. Okay. So these are not just bills that are related to women, right? These are just bills. So
right, your most precious bills, and then we can talk after this about some of the bills we're getting behind as the Republican women.
okay. One of the bills I have that's being redrafted right now is in Utah, we don't have, well, anywhere in the country, the FAA does not require aviation liability insurance, and that's becoming a problem. There are actually 11 states that do. And so this bill would be to have aviation liability insurance as a requirement for an aircraft in Utah. To be, as it registers in Utah, it would need to have proof of aviation insurance. And that's just for people on the ground who may be impacted by a crash or material or something flying from the plane. It's kind of hard to believe they don't have to have it when cars do, of course. Another bill that just passed out of the House today was my inmate phone call bill. And on that one, inmates pay well, not inmates themselves, but their families to communicate with them. Sometimes they're called predatory phone rates. They're very high rates. And when the families really can usually not afford those rates. And so they fall out of contact with their families. And then as their sentence comes to a close, they have no contacts, nowhere to stay or contacts for a job, etc. And their children also experience adverse effects of anxiety and disruptive behavior because they're worried about their parent who's incarcerated. So this bill simply makes it so that there is a cap so that it's somewhat affordable to talk to your inmate who may, your loved one who may be incarcerated. And that's at a county jail. There's already a cap on the state prison. And then those are really the only two. I mean, there is one that I've passed through that is about the state anti-littering campaign, because it's a problem lately we have. And I have another bill that deals, it kind of closes the loophole on fetal remains, where heretofore the remains after, say, an abortion, they're sent out of state usually for pathology. And once they leave the state, those fetuses are no longer subject to Utah law. And we have some great laws about burial and cremation and so forth. And so this will just require them to do the pathology in state unless there's some question as to cause of death. And then they will be allowed to leave the state. But that would, of course, with an abortion, the cause of death is known. So that would apply to a miscarriage or some genetic defect that needed to be examined out of state, or in addition to Utah or whatever. So those are really the three that I'm most excited about. Thanks, Kara.
I'm excited about them too. Cheryl, you're doing amazing work. Let's
Thank
see
you.
who would like to go next. Susan. Christine, you want to go next?
Sure.
Oh, hold on, Chris. There you go.
Can you hear me? I feel like the commercial on TV. Got it? Okay. Last night I passed my DCFS testing amendments and what that in Senate unanimously. So it's on the board or whatever they do over on the Senate side. And we did change the bill just a little bit in the Senate side. I mean, we had a request from the judges, and instead of saying you can only use urine, blood, and swabs, mouth swabs for testing, we just said they cannot use hair follicle testing or fingernail testing because they both fall in the same category of they're growing out, and of course we, as I presented, they're not accurate. There are a lot of false positives, false negatives, and they also have a systemic racial bias built into them, because if you have dark hair, you're going to be found positive way more than anyone that's blonde or has light hair. So I'm very, very happy about that one. And of course, we had our micro kitchen enterprise bill on the floor today. I like this one because the people who are cooking in their homes can request get for a license, and they can have their kitchen inspected maybe just once a year. But it means that the people who are buying food products from them and ordering them can have a little bit of sense of peace about how clean things are. And we're also hoping that if people get successful in their home kitchens, that maybe this might spur them into maybe a small business outside of their home. And in today's pandemic world, anything we can do to help people at home make some money to pay their bills, we think that's really important.
I love it. That's a great bill.
I do have to just say that Christine got the shout out for being the fashionista today on Twitter. So way to go, Christine.
Thank you. I've been sharing it with my family. They all think I rock.
Good job. Who would like to go next? Melissa? Candace?
Go, Melissa, you go, you're right there.
Okay, I have two left. One of them, hold on a second. I have two left. One of them will be probably Monday, that has to do with the budgetary transparency and accountability. And it's a follow-up from what I did 2 years ago. But what it does is it has one information system for the LFA, the LAG, and the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. Right now, all the entities receiving funds from the state report to them, but there are all kinds of systems and programs. And so this simplifies it to one system. But it also requires each of those entities that they have to have performance measures. They have to, hi. Yeah, so we have to, or the entities have to say what they're going to do with the money, and what the optimization is, and what the performing measures are. And then they have to do the same in a year. It's basically a self-audit. So that's a huge process that you would think should already be in the works, but it hasn't, which means our auditors have to spend their time trying to find which entities are not reporting effectively or efficiently. So this way the computer will basically spit out the red flags, yellow flags, and the staff can help train of how to use the funds better. They can just follow up better. So that's one. The second one is actually a Senate bill that's coming over that will actually provide birth control for Medicaid for up to 230%, I think, just for contraception. And the federal government pays about $4 million. We pay $800,000, and it's the savings cost for society for what this would be is for every dollar that is spent, it saves $7 in our state funds of what we end up spending if we don't do this. So that will be coming in the next little bit. So I'd love any feedback if any of you have any thoughts about that,
Awesome.
since it affects women so much and families, and I like the dollar amount that it helps our bottom line.
I'm hearing, can you hear me?
Okay, should I go?
Oh, wait, Chris, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm getting real strong, positive feedback on that bill, Melissa. And people asking me to support it. So I'm in your corner.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Susan.
Okay, all right. Well, I have a series of bills that is working its way through. Two of them have finished through the Senate today and one through the House. And what they will do is reduce bureaucracy in our public education system. And there's many principals and superintendents and so on in schools, charter schools and small districts and large districts who have been inundated with reports. And so these bills are going to look at the reports that are currently in place and determine if they can be adjusted or changed, if we need the reports at all, or if they can be modified to be streamlined, if we can get the information from someplace else, if two reports can be combined to one, those kinds of things, so that the administrators can spend more time on working with students. And then also in these bills, we're going to look at future reports, and we have processes now for the state board and the legislature to look as we require reports to make sure, again, these reports, which are important and needed, but make sure they're doing what we want them to do in a way that is the least burdensome way. And we think it's great. And these bills already, well, there's the state board has already identified 7 reports, and that will save the state on the state board level $18,000, and that doesn't include all the savings that will come in the local, in the schools and the districts. So it's going to save money and save headaches and help our educators spend more time on education of students. So I'm super excited about that. And then the second bill, which is actually the next one to be heard in the House, is a bill that is going to help with our daycare situation. Before COVID, we found that the study was done and there's a 60% shortage of daycare providers for those in our state who are looking and needing daycare. And so what we're going to do is try to increase capacity and at the same time, increase flexibility. So currently, a person who chooses to provide daycare in their home and not be licensed can have up to 4 children. So what this bill is going to do is allow them to have up to 6 children without being licensed. And so that hopefully will increase capacity, and it will also create some flexibility. And 2 other things, right now during COVID, the study was done last year. During COVID, things have changed a little bit because obviously work schedules have changed for parents, and some parents are at home right now who weren't home a year ago. But we know that that will even out as COVID, as it isn't so frequent, and that'll even out. So what this bill does is doesn't begin until January 1st, which will give existing daycare providers time to see where we are when when the COVID effect is over. And then there's an amendment actually that will say that of those 6 children, only 2 can be under 2, just so that a daycare provider won't be overwhelmed with the amount of young people. So I'm excited. I think, again, this will create some flexibility for parents as they have additional choices. It'll be flexibility for daycare providers, because if they want to stay certified to receive federal funding and so on, they can. But if they want to do it without federal funding and to be unlicensed, they can do that. So we're hoping to have this be a win for everyone.
Good bill.
I love it.
Awesome. I really appreciate how much you spent. How much time have you spent working on this? It's amazing.
It's
Good
great.
job. Candace, do you want to jump on here? Or you got it? We'll add you in.
Let's see. Okay, so appreciate the chance to be able to talk about some of the bills I'm working on. I'll say the 3 biggest things right now for me. This session, I got my military retirement tax amendments bill through. So we're one of the last 4 states to tax military retirement income. And so this bill, we would join the majority of the nation in thanking our veterans by exempting their military retirement income. And this is huge for our military families, obviously, and thanking them for their service, but also attracting and retaining great talent as individuals consider where they want to come retire for a second career. Another issue I've been working on is related to no bid contracts. As we saw through the pandemic, we had a lot of issues with agencies and the executive branch entering into emergency no bid contracts, and there is very little transparency and accountability in that process. So this puts a cap in place on the length of days that those contracts can be entered into, and it also requires a reporting element. Ultimately, we're trying to get people to the competitive bid process, which serves our state better and also maximizes taxpayer dollars. And then I'll also just say I've been working closely with stakeholders on a bill that addresses domestic violence. In my area, over the past year, we had a really tragic situation where a father killed his 2 little boys and then himself. And so this bill really is trying to take a comprehensive look at the tools that we give our law enforcement, as well as the lethality assessment tools, and assessing the situation when an individual is in a highly lethal situation where they're more likely to be killed. And so what this would do is it would have in post, it would include training for domestic violence, as well as a follow-up course, which is optional, on a more comprehensive review of lethality assessment training. I've got that and a few other bills, but I think those are the big ones I wanted to cover today.
Awesome. I just want to mention, we just got a picture of all of us, and we are right under Becky.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. All right. Sure. Thank you, Candace. Carrie Ann. Right. Am I the last one? Or do you have to go still? I haven't yet. Okay. I'll be brief. A couple, are we doing 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2. I mean, if you can be brief, we can get 3 in. That's cool.
Okay. So, sorry, Candace, I was trying to take that out of your way. I have a bill that I'm very excited about. It is self-defense amendment. So currently in state law, if you need to use a weapon, a deadly weapon in self-defense, it generally will go to trial, and the trial can be very expensive, generally around $250,000. If it's a high profile case, it can be in the millions. And so this bill flips the presumption onto the state to prove with clear and convincing evidence that you did not use your firearm in self-defense. So it allows, it actually tends to discourage frivolous suits or prosecutions against people who have simply had to use their firearm in self-defense. And I've heard stories from people who teach concealed carry classes that when they get to the part in the class describing the legal process, if you happen to use your firearm in self-defense, some people walk out of the class saying, I would rather die than ruin my family financially. And that's a horrible decision for somebody to have to make. So if we have Second Amendment rights to defend ourselves, which we do, and I think there's significant case law and historical law going back to English common law that is the case, then we need to protect those rights in Utah. And so that bill I'm excited about. I think it goes a long way to doing that. Another bill I have that I'm excited about is HB 239, online impersonation prohibition. And this bill came about because a couple of my constituents and an officer in Davis County who was diligent in serving his community, was 12 years into his career. A family member of his created a fake profile of his wife, and right after the George Floyd shooting, actually, or not shooting, the George Floyd killing, actually posted on Facebook some horrible racist comments, insinuating that they were from this officer and his wife and that the sentiments were theirs. And this officer was suspended from work, and just this past week was exonerated from the charges because of the proof that was uncovered that he was impersonated online in an FBI investigation. The proof was uncovered. And so I'm very excited that we will now have this tool in our law enforcement toolbox in Utah so that we can prevent this thing from happening in the future. For anyone who's impersonated online, it can have such lasting impacts for people on their ability to get employment, to maintain employment. It can be devastating. This family had to flee the state. They were threatened. Their children's lives were threatened. Their house was surrounded. So it can be very, very serious. And so this needs to be a tool in the toolbox for our law enforcement. And so those are two bills I'm excited about.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. One thing I want to say before I begin is these 7 women have made my first session an amazing experience. They have supported me, and they have, hey Cal, they have been beside me and helped me in more ways than I can explain. I'm grateful for these 7 women, and I hope that anyone out there.
Come on, you gotta come closer.
I hope that anyone out there who's interested in getting involved in politics reaches out to these 7 other wonderful representatives. Thanks, Cal. So one of my bills that I'm excited about, and it hopefully will get to rules this week. I have a few, but the one is it has to do with online education for rural schools. Our rural schools sometimes, not always, but sometimes struggle funding some of the core classes. You know, they may need a math teacher, they may need an English teacher, and there's not someone in the community who lives by and can come and teach that class in the school, or they don't, necessarily can be teaching full time. And so this will give those schools an opportunity to provide that education through an online source with no cost to them if they meet the qualifications. So I really am excited about that one. And we have another photo op coming.
Come on, come right in the middle.
We kind of are. We'll pick a new location.
Yeah, different location next time. We keep getting stopped.
I know, we've got some good pictures of it.
True. And then the next bill necessarily, it's one that I am proud of, but it wasn't one that I was, hoping to get a lot of attention for, is preserving women's sports.
Get in there.
What
is this?
We're doing a town hall.
It's live right now.
We're doing a live
The
town hall.
mighty 8 right here.
Okay.
The others are
So the Preserving Women's Sports Bill, and again, I can't tell you how amazing these women have been. We have spoke with the governor, and we are looking at improving the language because it's important to us that, number one, we stand behind women. We're there with them, supporting them, but we also are compassionate, and we will remain compassionate and working with everyone in the community so that they feel confident that their needs and their concerns are being heard. More information on those changes to House Bill 302, Preserving Women's Sports, will come out next week.
Do you know who's holding it in the Senate? Who's running it? No, who's holding it?
It is been assigned to the Health and Human Services Committee. Yep.
I thought you said that it was being,
It
it
had-
would not go through in the Senate.
Well, we've got a good compromise, I feel like, going forward
With the
now,
compromise.
and it will be moving through
Okay, but
now.
without the compromise, it wouldn't?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I just know we've got that good compromise. So now, as of this afternoon, it's moved to Senate committee.
Mhm.
So
Was it needed with the governor or with the senators?
that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because
I don't have
had
an
two
answer
other
to it.
battles with the governor over two other bills. One of them was one that was circled today, right? Yeah, that are, that battles with the speaker, but that's why I wondered if it was the governor's issue or if it's the senator's issues.
I think there was concerns that were initiated by the governor, and the senators wanted to be sensitive to those concerns perhaps. And this is me speculating. And we've addressed that, I feel like, pretty well today in our
Mhm.
meeting with him. And now we can,
Because I think it's really
Be heard.
interesting. It passed pretty much along party lines in the House.
Yeah.
Would it do the same in the Senate without the compromise? I don't know.
yeah.
Cute. Would it do the same in the Senate? Was it an issue in the Senate or was it an issue with the governor? You know, and if he vetoed it, would we want to bring it back? Or I don't know. Those are always kind
Yeah.
of the things that you have to wonder,
Yeah.
was it just his issue?
Yeah.
Those are good questions to ask in the future.
Yeah.
When you're making negotiations, is to find out, is this just his issue or is this multifaceted?
No,
right?
and that's a fair
So
point.
Kara, what else are you working on?
I think, well, those are the two big main ones. Well, I have a use of force. Thanks for asking. I do care about that one quite a bit. And I hope to get it to a committee meeting so that we can continue to work on it. Oh, and I have a DCFS bill. That bill is my pride and joy. DCFS foster care is actually the primary reason I got involved in politics about a decade ago. And so I hope that gets out. I've affectionately named it Aries Bill because of a situation that happened with a young man. And so hopefully we can get that into committee and move forward with it.
So here's an interesting thing. If you look at our bills, we're really on low bills. Having been on the week that we are, we're on low bills. And there were a number of committees canceled this week because they didn't have any bills on them. So the question is, what is happening with our other bills? Because in other years, we've gone up to 500 and, and I don't even think we had that many drafted, let alone in the queue. And you're saying, I really want it to go to committee. It would be interesting to find out what the process is if there's other committees that have waiting lists.
Yeah.
That rules need to maybe consider putting some other bills over to other committees.
Yeah.
Is there a backlog on some committees?
That's
Has
a good question.
education been full or has it barely been going through?
We've been pretty
So-
efficient in education, I
Yeah,
feel
we
like.
have.
Yeah,
But
So-
is there a waiting list or?
Right now, there's a waiting list. There hasn't
Okay.
been, but right now there is.
so I'm chair of Judiciary Committee and my agendas have been full from the very beginning. I haven't canceled any meetings. I've had 8 bills on the last 2 agendas and just processing and I mean, it's not always our goal to pass lots and lots of bills. I think less bills is probably a good thing. A lot of repealer bills is a good thing as
Yeah.
we look at
Right.
where we're going in the state. But I gotta say, I just appreciate working with these 8 women in the Utah legislature. We have made a name for ourselves. Honestly, as we've been talking with all of you, we've had multiple colleagues walk by and say, what is this? What is going on? And take our picture. And they've been so encouraging to us to really reach out and address the issues that Utah women face with Republican values and Republican answers. And we as Republican women do really feel like we have that ability to bring good policy to the table in representing the women of Utah, and are so thankful for this opportunity that the voters of Utah have allowed us. So thank you to all of you women for all the work you're doing, and thank you to all the citizens of Utah. We hope to hear from you and have this conversation ongoing.
Yes,
Have a
definitely.
good Friday night.
I think we should do this again before the session ends, at least one more time, and then why not through the interim, just
Yes.
up and talk about the bills we're working on and keep everyone apprised to what the Republican women are up to.
And it's so great to have the ability to talk to other Republican women, to share feedback and share ideas and get their perspective. And I think it's helped us be stronger and create stronger policy. I think it's really been a positive thing.
And there have been a number of articles recently that have talked about how Utah is one of the lowest in the nation for having women in the legislature. We need more women to run, and we need more conservative women to run. And so I think this is really important for as all of us as Republican women to say, we need more women to come join the force.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a wrap for this time, but we will try to get everyone aware when then we do it again. It'll be live. It's live on my Facebook. I'll try to get it to all of you so you can push it out and let your constituents know.
And want to do a
Great.
clarification. We've all been COVID tested multiple times this week. So you can hear us without our masks right now,
Thank
but we
goodness.
are all tested multiple times. So.
That's right.
Yes.
We've just been tested today, so we know we're safe. So.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
And